Hi everyone.
Happy New Year for you, and
Okay, all right. So happy New Year from Zain and me. Before we move on to the next video, all of us think about creating New Year resolutions. And since I run a finance channel and I educate people on finance, if you want to pick a new habit of investing, and if you're a beginner in the stock market, do check out Small Cases. It's a smart way of investing. And over to the main video. Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. So 2022 has been a very exciting year for my family and I. In July of 2022, my wife and I decided, and we just literally out of the blue, we packed our 2 suitcases with our 2-year-old son and we moved to Goa. So it was an all of a sudden move. Our parents felt a little bit shocked with that move. We did not know anyone here in Goa, but we were able to make that move successfully. Then the second wild thing came that we decided to purchase a villa here. And anyone that we spoke with, their viewpoint was that, hey, it's really difficult to buy property in Goa for outsiders, but we decided to do it. We had zero clue in terms of running a holiday rentals business on it, but we figured it out. The point of this story is that a lot of things that you do in your life are just based on whims and wishes. It is very difficult to compute and calculate every single step. And through this story, I want to give you the confidence that if you want to have time freedom, if you want to have location freedom, if you want to have money freedom, then there are certain strategies that you can adopt, which I'm going to speak about on this video. And by adopting those strategies and curating your life, hopefully you will be able to improve your outcomes. Now, whenever I'm sharing this story, one natural response that I get is that, Akshat, you already make a lot of money now. So your life is simple. You can move any place you like. And that is partially true. But my wife and I were not born in like a rich family. We were born in like a middle class family only. We had to make a lot of sacrifices. We had to restructure our thought process. We had to take a lot of risks in order to get where we are today. So through this simple video, I'm going to do two things. One is that I'm going to talk about how much money I made, because that is what the title of the video is. So I'm going to give you a very quick rundown there. And second key component that I'm going to speak about is that what key lessons I derived this year, which I will continue to use, and I would encourage everyone to use it, because if you do it, then I'm sure and certain that your life will change. And if you do not like this video, do come back and dislike this video. But for the time being, do like this video. So first things first, how much money did I make this year? So I made a few millions. That's what I'll leave the conversation at. I think that will be pointless. How much money am I making disclosing it entirely? Did I make more money from last year this year? Yes, I definitely did it. Many of you would be questioning that, no, what, probably you're not making as much money as you're speaking. So don't want to get into that debate. I will just simply put a snippet here, which is regarding the member community tab that I had started recently. And you can run your projections and figure out that how much money I'm making from this small snippet of business. And this is one of the many things that I do. Again, I will link one of my earlier videos where I have disclosed my entire income streams. You can go and check it out and figure out how much money I'm trying to make. It is always a fun exercise. But to cut the long story short, this year I did make more money, substantially more money compared to last year. So that is one. Second key component that you actually need to take away through this conversation is that there are three parts of money that I have. So there are three types of income that I'm generating. The first income type is called as the portfolio income. So portfolio income simply means that I have made certain investments, for example, in stocks, in real estate, in cryptos, and I'm making certain money out of it. This constitutes roughly 15 to 20% of entire yearly income that I'm making. This is the first part. So the second part of my income is called as earned income. So earned income simply means that I have a job or a business and I'm earning via that. So I have to actively invest a lot of my time in terms of generating this income. So right now I'm young, so I do spend significant amount of time working every single day. So my earned income component is fairly high. I run businesses, I invest in other businesses. There are a bunch of digital products that I have, etc., etc. So from that particular perspective, I make almost 60 to 65% of my income in the form of earned income, where I substantially invest my time in terms of generating that income. The final piece of the puzzle that is there in terms of making income is the passive income stream. So passive income stream simply means where I'm not spending crazy amount of money in terms of generating that income. A classic case in point would be my course. So I had recently launched a stock market course. The reception has been wonderful. So I'm making approximately 20% through such courses. And over time, my goal is to move more towards portfolio income and less towards earned income, because that will give me more freedom in terms of being location independent, in terms of spending more time with my family. So that is the eventual goal of making money and creating more income streams. So my wife is behind the camera and she asked me a very interesting question that, hey, what is the difference between portfolio income and passive income? Okay, so let me help you understand that by using an example. So for example, you might be buying and selling stocks. That is a part of your portfolio income. It is not really passive in nature. You still have to track your portfolio. You still have to sell and buy stocks. So that requires more investment of your time. But it is an income stream that you have built because of the investments that you have made. So that is a portfolio income. A passive income would be where you have to spend very little time in terms of generating that income stream. So once you have written a book and you have set up a sales process, the book keeps on selling. So you do not need to put in insane amount of effort. Now with that said, let me move on to part 2 of the video where I will speak about some critical lessons that I learned in 2022 which has really changed my life. Okay, so the first critical lesson that I learned this year was that you must absolutely know your hourly rate. What is the meaning of this? How do you identify your hourly rate? Let me have a very quick conversation. So your hourly rate can be 200 rupees also per hour, or it could go up to 5 lakh rupees per hour also. Now what is the utility of knowing this specific number? Well, it is fairly simple that it helps you make outsourcing decisions. So think about it this way, that you might be hiring like house help, right? And that house help might be charging you 100 rupees per hour. Now there are many bachelors that I meet and they say that, you know what, I want to save money, therefore I'm not hiring any house help. Now I ask them that, okay, why is this the case? So the simple answer becomes that, you know what, I want to save money therefore. But are you really saving money if you are taking these type of decisions? You can figure out a quantitative answer if you know your hourly rate. Now how to do that? Well, it depends on the exact profession you are in. For example, you might be in a job, and let's say that for example you are making 10 lakh rupees in a year and you are working 200 days, and on an average you are working 8 hours per day. Then what will be your hourly rate? It would be 10 lakh rupees divided by the number of hours that you work, which would be 200 into 8, 1600. So it will come out to be roughly 600 to 650 rupees. So that becomes your hourly rate. But if you are in a profession where your cash flow is not regular, for example if you are a business person or if you are a freelancer, then how do you go about calculating your hourly rate? Well, again, you can use a approximate formula. This is not going to be absolutely correct, but hopefully you will get a basic idea. So what you simply do is that you calculate your per yearly income after tax, that's one, and divide it by the number of hours that you're working in a year. I would encourage you to consider 200 as the number of working days, because even if you're working more than that right now, at some stage in your life, you are going to bring down that number of working hours on per yearly basis. Once you know this, it becomes fairly easy for you what type of things you should outsource, what type of things you should not outsource, and it can prove to be a game changer if you are in a job or if you are in a business or even freelancing. Okay, so the next thing that I learned was that you must absolutely kill your comfort zone, or at least take some risks where you're not comfortable. A classic case in point was that I fretted a lot before buying a villa in Goa. I got so much contrary commentary that, you know what, Portuguese succession laws are there, outsiders are not even allowed to buy property in Goa, you do not know anything about the Goa real estate market, you will make a mistake, why are you investing this money? So there is a lot of negative commentary that happens whenever you decide to go out of your comfort zone. But for me, if I reflect on this decision, what I've realized is that the last 6 months has taught me so much about the real estate market in general. Because I did not know much about the Goa real estate market, it gave me an incentive to go out and learn, talk to a lot of real estate agents, talk to a lot of builders, talk to a lot of people who are living across different communities. So I must have scouted for at least 300-400 properties, and then I finally made a call to buy one. So the point is that if I reflect back on the last 6 months, what was my trigger for learning? It was very simple, that I actually made a decision to go out of my comfort zone, and that allowed me to learn a lot about not only buying property in real estate, but the short-term rental market, long-term rental market, and a bunch of complications that come with it. Alright, so the next critical point that I learned this year was that small things can create a massive difference in your life. So for example, this year I was trying to lose weight, and I, like always, I used to join like a gym, spend a crazy amount of money, and then show up for 5 days and then discontinue the gym. So I thought that, hey, this year I'm not going to do that. What I'm simply going to do is that I'm going to get up in the morning and do HIIT exercises for 15 minutes. That's it. So now I'm getting like comments that, hey, Akshat, you have lost weight, this, that. So that was a simple point. Again, here's the pool. And again, I use this pool quite frequently. And this has become like one of the habits to switch between HIIT and swimming in order to lose weight. So this is one of the key habits that I developed. And I realized that making small changes can create a massive impact in your life. Just 15 minutes of HIIT or half an hour of swimming can create a massive impact on your health. Now I keep getting questions from people that, you know what, Akshat, I can't save. The money just does not stay with me. I have 0% savings rate. Now, if you're in that situation, then you should not set the goal that, you know what, I'm going to save like 50% of my entire salary. That is not going to happen. What you should think about is that, okay, if I am saving zero now, my goal is to save 1% of my salary every month. Cultivated that habit, then go with 2%. Till what point you should accelerate this? Up until the point at least you get to 20% of your savings rate. That type of habit building is easier. It gives you confidence, because every time you save like 1% of your money, then you will make an attempt to save another 1%. And that kind of cultivates a habit, and it creates a positive feedback system for you in order to achieve your small goals. So if you're saving zero, start with 1. If you do not know how to invest in the stock market, your only goal becomes not to beat like Mr. Warren Buffett, but to buy your first stock where you're not losing money. So set simpler goals, do simpler things, and turn them into habits. Okay, so the next critical point that I learned this year was that in order to cultivate good habits, you must reduce friction, and in order to do away with bad habits, you must increase friction. Now, let me use a couple of examples to illustrate this point. Now, all of us are consuming content on social media these days, and we follow some creator or the other. And I'm hoping that you guys follow me. But what ends up happening is that many a times we just keep on scrolling, wasting our time. But we went into this social media game and consuming social media with the intent of cultivating knowledge. So what is that one simple step that you can execute in order to benefit from social media? All you simply need to do is that people whose content you do not like, just unfollow them, and you will not be shown their videos or text, whatever they are posting, and automatically your feed gets optimized. So automatically you start learning more and more. So what is the step that you took? That you reduce the friction between you and the person whose content you wanted to consume. So you have bifurcated everything else. Now let me use another example, that these days people get so much worried that, you know what, I am spending so much time on just using my phone every day. So what is it that you can do? So you can create a physical separation between you and your phone. You can create a friction between you and your phone. For example, when you're working in a particular room, just keep your phone outside the room, right? So you will not be bothered by it. Similarly, if you are working in an office and you don't have the leeway of keeping your phone someplace else because someone can do chori of your phone or whatever, then just simply put it on airplane mode. So these are small steps that can create a massive impact on the quality of your thinking, quality of your life, and eventually how it manifests in the form of success that you're achieving. The second key thing that I learned this year was calculating the lifetime value of high impact decisions. Now, this is a complicated statement, so let me break it down, but this is an extremely important point. So let me illustrate by using an example. Now, many of us are told that, you know what, if you don't know much about the stock market, just go and invest in index. And there is nothing wrong with this strategy. If you know absolutely nothing about the stock market and do not wish to learn anything about the stock market, go and invest in index. Not an issue there. But have you ever tried to quantify the impact of the decision of you investing in individual stocks vis-a-vis just simply doing index investing? So let me break that computation for you. And there are 4 specific charts that I will show you in this regard. So let's work with the assumption that you are investing 25,000 rupees monthly in the stock market. And if you're doing index investing, then the average rate of return has been around 12% on an yearly basis. This is what the historic data tells us over the last 20 years. So if you run the math for 10 years, and I will show you the chart here, then the total amount of return that you will make in these 10 years would be somewhere around 58 lakhs. Now, let's run the same analysis if you are picking stocks. Now, there are different stock pickers with varied levels of skills. For example, many people will make like negative returns in the stock market with direct stock picking, and many people will make like 1000%. But let's assume that you're a good stock picker, then I do not think that it is that complicated to make between 15 to 20% CAGR. Now, you will have a counter response that, you know what, mutual fund managers are not able to make that kind of return. So how would individual retail investors make that kind of return? With mutual fund manager, they are managing 1,000 crore portfolio. So if they decide to sell a particular stock in a large bulk, even the order might not get executed. So you and I do not have these kind of limitations. Therefore, we can make 15 to 16% return. This is a topic that I discussed on one of my earlier videos, so I will not belabor this point. But let's assume that you are able to make 15-16% CAGR through direct stock picking. Then if we run the same numbers, then the number comes out to be 74 lakhs. Now you'll say, yaar, hardly any difference between 58 lakhs and 74 lakhs. So kyun hi seekhna direct stock picking? Well, but the story changes dramatically if you extend this analysis for 30 years. So I'll quickly share the number. That with index investing for 30 years, you will be making approximately 8.82 crores. And with direct stock picking for a period of 30 years, that corpus will come out to be 22 crores. So there is a 3x difference in your portfolio if you index invest vis-a-vis direct stock picking if you're decent at it. Now comes the natural question that, hey, how will I become like better at individual stock picking? Okay, so for that, I would recommend that you at least go and check out my course that is specifically designed for people who do not want to spend crazy amount of time picking individual stocks. So that is a system that I created and you can go and check it out. I'm not selling it at the pretense that, you'll make like 40% return, 50% return, or giving any guarantees of return. So it's a very honestly curated course where I have explained the rationale and logic behind anything that I'm speaking. So do go and check it out. The link is in the description box. So the next point that I realized this year is that you must stop buying time killers and invest your money in time savers. So what is the difference between these two? Okay, so let us understand it through an example. So let's say that you own one car. Now you have expanded it to owning 3 cars. So have you just purchased 2 additional cars? No, you have purchased 2 additional responsibilities. You might have to figure out systems process to get it cleaned, service it, pay insurance, get it serviced and whatnot. So think about any new item that you are buying and whether or not it is helping you save time or not. You might very well require 5 cars. I'm not commenting on that. I'm just simply using this as an example to outline the point that sometimes we just keep on aggregating more stuff. What it ends up doing is that it ends up eating into our time. I've seen so many people owning like 50-50 properties. Now they have no system or process to manage that property. They have to distress sell it just to come out of that headache. So before buying any item, please think about the fact whether it is eating your time or not, and whether or not you have a system or process to save your time around it or not. On the flip side, there are items that help you save a lot of time. For example, learn about Notion, learn about automating your emails, learn about Pomodoro technique. There are so many things that can help you save your time if you adopt deep work. So it's not as if that you need to imbibe every single bit of it, but at least start learning about assets that help you save time versus assets that eat into your time. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation and learned something new about building wealth, preserving your time, creating more happiness around you, and taking more risks and chances. I wish you all the best in the year 2023. I really hope that all of our wealth grows. All of you not only become money rich, but also become time and freedom rich, because that is eventually all of us are working towards. We are all working towards our happiness. And if we control all these different types of freedom, that is when we will truly be wealthy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.